All right, good afternoon to my 5 viewers. We are back with another video. Today we're going to talk about how the US is going to buy billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. It's going to be a big one today. This is very important, so let's get right into it. Disclaimer, not financial advice. You guys already know that. But this is a huge story. So last night, you guys probably saw gold prices absolutely skyrocketed, and that was because Trump imposed tariffs on Swiss gold, which the Swiss hold like 70% of the gold supply or something like that. So the day before yesterday, we were just talking about this in my video. The Fed suggested a revaluing of the gold fund to fund a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Now, let's talk about how interesting this would be if he did this on purpose. So this is from Jeff Park. Trump put on the gold tariff to drive a short squeeze in the physical gold market as to revalue the treasury to then send it higher and buy Bitcoin in a budget neutral way. This will go down as history as a legendary level macro gambit of all times. So, and then on the right here, just as we talked about in the last slide, one day after the Fed floats the idea of buying Bitcoin by revaluing the gold, Trump slaps a 70% tariff on Swiss gold. So, I mean, if Trump did this on purpose, it would probably be a pretty insane play. So let's talk about how this would work, right? So the tariff goes on the gold, the gold price rips higher, which we just saw, which means the U.S. gold reserves obviously would increase in value, and then they can use the funds from the gold reserve to buy Bitcoin without, just like Jeff Park was saying here, with by doing it in a budget neutral way, basically without taking tax money or taking revenue from somewhere else that the United States brings it from. So this would be honestly, this would be a huge play, right? Because if you look here from Joe Consorti, the U.S. holds 286 million dollars, or I'm sorry, million ounces of gold. So revalued to today's prices after the pump, it would be over $1 trillion. That's a lot of potential Bitcoin, right? And how smart would it be for President Trump to just inflate the price of gold and then use that to buy Bitcoin? It's like, creating money out of thin air. Oh, wait, the Fed already does that, right? So Michael Saylor was on Bloomberg today in response to the gold tariffs. Of course, you've heard him say this before. Bitcoin lives in cyberspace, no tariffs in cyberspace. So Saylor knows what's going on regardless of whether or not the United States uses this money to buy Bitcoin. Saylor is well positioned. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but CryptoZar, David Sachs, he mentioned how most of the top banks are still prohibiting access to the Bitcoin ETFs, which it's not fair to the American people. Obviously, it's a free country, and the Trump administration is trying to be as pro Bitcoin as they possibly can be. And this is an article from Archie as well. As you can see, there's only 13 of the top 25 banks that allow building Bitcoin products. Therefore, it's not priced in yet, right? So as more banks adopt Bitcoin, and as they allow their clients to buy Bitcoin products, obviously more adoption will spread, and then obviously the Bitcoin price will go up as well. So it's important to know that's not priced in yet. And then another from Archie, shout out to Archie, Bitcoin Archive, great follow on X. He says Bitcoin whales are buying at a huge pace. You can see the chart there. They're buying a lot, and you can also see that with the shrimp. Shrimp is basically anyone with what, like I think it's less than 10 Bitcoin or something like that. It might be less than 1 Bitcoin actually. So this is mostly like retail, right? So not only do we have the whales, we have the shrimp buying too, and they're outpacing the miners, which basically means more demand than supply. So let's talk about fiat for a second. This is from the Kobisi letter. It's a great follow on X. Fiat currencies are an eternal bear market. No economy has maintained an average inflation rate below 2% since the beginning of the gold-backed system in 1971. So essentially what this means, right? You guys have heard the Fed, you've heard Jerome Powell say we want to get to a 2% inflation rate. 2% inflation rate, it sounds like a low number. But over time, as you can see in the chart there on the right, over time, your money will inevitably go to zero, right? So, 2%, that doesn't sound too bad, right? Well, in 50 years, 2%, you lose like 2/3 of the value of your money, right? So that 2% number is BS. And this is not just for the US dollar, this is for any fiat currency whatsoever, which is why, obviously, Saylor, right? This is a huge reason why people Bitcoin, especially Michael Saylor, he says over $100 trillion from traditional equity and credit markets could flow into digital asset-backed instruments, outperforming their fiat counterparts. All fiat currency is going to zero. That is a guarantee. That is the only thing in life besides death and taxes that is guaranteed. And of course, Saylor knows this, and that's why he's buying, all the Bitcoin he possibly can, quite literally. So, Bitcoin therapist, he mentions that on Bloomberg today, hundreds of billions of dollars in Bitcoin purchases are expected over the next year. So, just so far this year in 2025, this is just from Bitcoin treasury companies. This does not include ETFs, retail, all this other stuff. $79 billion in 2025. Okay. That is in less than 8 months or a little bit over 8 months, whatever, right? It's insane. And this number is only going to be going up. Okay. So imagine how much money is flowing into it now. Give it a year from now, 2 years from now, 4, 5, 6, 10 years from now. I mean, 250,000 sounds bearish for the price of Bitcoin. So back to Joe Consorti. Bitcoin's volatility is the lowest it's ever been in a major cycle high. This could mean one of two things. Bitcoin's volatility is indefinitely dampened due to the post ETF buying and Bitcoin treasuries, or number two, we haven't reached the cycle high, and Joe Consorti thinks it's both, which is a fair assumption in my opinion. We haven't seen Bitcoin volatility. It's actually been at an all-time low, so we're used to more Bitcoin volatility. But one of the reasons why it's probably lower than normal is because of the ETFs, because you have that constant bid of millions and millions, literally millions and millions of dollars every single day from the Bitcoin ETFs and from treasury companies. So you can see there, the Bitcoin space is evolving, and you're still early. Right? I know it might not seem like it with Bitcoin at $116,000 at the time of this recording, but once again from Archie, less than a million people own one full Bitcoin. That is 0.01% of the global population. If you hold one Bitcoin, you're early. And I would argue if you own zero point 0.1 Bitcoin, you're early, right? Most people do not have Bitcoin in their portfolio at all. Now, that will change when MicroStrategy is added to the S&P 500, which I believe will happen pretty soon in September. If it doesn't get added to the S&P 500, it's completely rigged, and it's just, not just whatsoever. It meets all the requirements of being in the S&P 500. I believe it's like the top 100 companies, largest companies in the United States. But that's besides the point, right? We're talking about how early we are in Bitcoin. And if you own at least some Bitcoin, if you're even watching this video, you're early. 0.01% of the global population owns more than one Bitcoin. That's pretty insane considering there's only 21 million Bitcoin and there's probably a lot less than that available because of all the Bitcoin that's lost and all the Bitcoin that Michael Saylor holds that he's never going to sell, right? So that is just incredible to think about. Now, I saw this on X earlier as well. There is a study done and it predicts a $1 million Bitcoin price in early 2027. Now, I'm a firm believer, that Bitcoin will get to $1 million. By 2027, I don't know if it's going to get there that quickly, but I think by 2030, it's pretty much a guarantee. And you guys can quote me on that. If to 2030 $1 million Bitcoin, I think if it's not there by 2030, I'd be pretty disappointed. But you can see the writing on the wall. I mean, we just talked about how much money is going into Bitcoin. I mean, $79 billion in 8 months in 2025. And that's just from treasury companies. Can you imagine how much money is going to be going between now and 2027 into Bitcoin? It's pretty incredible, right? So there's still a lot of time left in this bull run. As you guys know, post halving years always provide the biggest gains. You can see right down the middle, that dotted line, that dotted vertical line is splitting right down the middle with the Bitcoin halving. We are currently in the fourth stage of the cycle, which is usually the most parabolic. And as you can see there, that red line, we haven't gotten to that peak yet, and we're expected to go a lot higher. So I would say personally, just to be safe, 1 to 2 months left in the bull run. Actually, maybe 2 to 3, let's say, because a lot of people are saying that there might be an extended bull run. It might go into 2026. Might never have a bear market again. Blah blah blah. I don't want to count on that. I would rather take take a majority of my profits in the next 2 to 3 months. But I'll keep you guys updated on that as well. Now, one last thing I want to touch on is Ethereum. I know you guys probably saw Ethereum is back up about $4,000, and it's been about 11 months since that's happened, or wait, like 10 months, something like that. So it's been a while, and ETH we know has gotten beaten to hell. It was down at like $1,500 back in April or something like that. So being back at 4,000 is incredible, not only for Ethereum, but also for the rest of altcoins as well. And you can see here, you guys, if you watched my last video, there's literally like 5 of you guys that watched my last video. But if you did, you would know that Bitcoin and Solana, historically, in post-halving years, August is incredible. Like for Bitcoin, it's like a 30% gain on average. Same thing with, I think with Sol, it's higher than 30% on average. But with Ethereum, it's the same. It's like what is it, 60% on average or something like that. I mean, obviously, there's only been two post-halving bull markets that Ethereum's been in because it was founded in 2016. But whatever, right? August is normally a very bullish month for Ethereum, and we are seeing that right now. I believe Ethereum is up like 5 or 6%, and we're only a few days in. So, if Ethereum's looking pretty good, altcoins looking pretty good, at least for August so far. Nothing is promised, obviously, but give you a little bit of hopium at the end of the video here. I appreciate you guys watching. Once again, leave comments, please. I know there's like not many of you, but please leave comments, give me some feedback so I can improve my videos. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys have a great day.